Disclaimer: I am not a doctor, certified nutritionist, dietitian, or health expert. All the points in this video are backed by my own research, and therefore this is for entertainment purposes only and not health advice. Please consult with your doctor if you have any health concerns. So you don't have your dream body because you don't know how losing weight actually works. Did you know that slimming down and getting quote-unquote in shape has nothing to do with working out at all? Working out is for your mental health, to release endorphins to make you feel good, but in terms of getting your waist size down a couple inches or slimming down your thighs or losing belly fat, all of that happens in your kitchen. And on that same topic, did you know that you actually can't spot reduce fat loss? Where you lose and gain fat is dependent on each individual's genetics and body type. So for me, I can't spot reduce fat in my thighs. I have a pear shape, and that's just where all my fat goes if I gain weight. I can slim down overall, but I can't specifically target my thighs. But once I let go of the false belief that I could spot reduce fat, I stopped doing those ridiculous slim leg workouts that were really popular here on YouTube a few years ago, because those don't work. If you do them for long enough and you already have slimmed down and lost overall body fat, then those targeted workouts are for to get toned. You could get toned legs or toned arms, and it might work in that way if you do them consistently enough, but using that as a method to lose weight and lose fat is just not correct, and it's going to lead you down a path of frustration. So I think the belief that working out is what helps you lose weight is because of all of those weight loss shows from back in the day. A really good example would be The Biggest Loser. Oh my gosh, my family and I used to love watching that show, but all they would show is the contestants at the gym for 12 hours a day, throwing up because they were probably malnourished and probably starving. And then they would show the weigh-ins at the end of the week where it would say they lost 10 pounds. So going back to how fat loss actually works, it all comes down to what you put in your body. And I know that's a statement that everybody knows is true, but what about what's actually going on in your body? And I don't know about you, but I'm definitely someone who likes to know why certain things work. And the reason why I'm saying fat loss and not weight loss is because those are actually two different things. So weight loss is a decrease in your overall body weight, and it accounts for everything. Losing fat, losing muscle, it could be water weight, and sometimes even bone density. So when you step on the scale and see a lower number, it's not always clear which part of your body composition contributed to that drop. So actually, losing muscle is really not good for you because you need it, especially as you get older. Yeah, it's all fun and games being wispy thin when you're 22, but when you get into your 30s or even your mid to late 20s and older, not having any muscle buildup will just be really, really terrible for your longevity and your overall health. So yeah, fat loss on the other hand is the process of specifically reducing the amount of body fat that you have, and it's a healthier and more sustainable goal because it focuses on improving your body composition, which is just the ratio of fat to muscle in your body. And losing fat while preserving muscle also leads to better physical performance, appearance, and overall health. And also targeting fat loss will better equip you to sustain it for a long time, versus I feel the mindset of weight loss is this is a goal I have, and once I achieve it, I can go back to doing whatever I want. So did you know that in order to achieve sustainable fat loss, there's 3 things you should be paying attention to? The first is your calorie intake. Do you actually know how many calories on average you eat every day? Do you have a system or a way of measuring or knowing? And if you don't, you probably should. So we have a horrible gauge when it comes to estimating how many calories are actually in the things that we eat. We could think that we're eating something healthy, but it turns out a quarter cup serving has almost 500 calories. So a good example of this would be almond butter. So let's say you're at the grocery store and you see the almond butter on the shelf and you think, oh, this would be such a good alternative to, sugary, calorically dense peanut butter. And then you think oh, it's probably what, 25 to 30 calories, for a spoonful. But as it turns out, 1 tablespoon of almond butter has almost 100 calories. So it's actually a pretty high calorie food. So I'm not saying to not eat almond butter, but that was just an example of how easy it is to underestimate how many calories you're taking in. You could put 2 to 3 tablespoons of almond butter in your smoothie and have no idea that you've added an extra 200 to 300 calories on top of all the other things that you might be putting in that smoothie. So this is just a sign to actually read the food labels when you buy ingredients and stuff at the grocery store. You'd be surprised at how many calories are actually in things. So let's say that you want your daily caloric intake to be no more than 1,400 calories, but you've already eaten 1,200 calories throughout the day. But let's say after your workout or whatever, you come home and you make a protein smoothie for your dinner and you put 2 to 3 scoops of almond butter to sweeten it up a little. So you think your smoothie couldn't be more than like 200 calories, but in fact, it's already 200 calories without the almond butter, and once you add your 2 to 3 scoops, your smoothie turns out to be 400 to 500, basically a full dense meal. And now you're over your 1,400 calorie goal by a few hundred calories, which if you keep doing could have a cumulative effect. So when it comes to your caloric intake, you should treat it like a budget that depletes throughout the day, or like a portfolio that you can reallocate and rebalance. You could literally also use ChatGPT and have it tailor your caloric budget for you, and you can get as specific as you want. Like if you're vegan, if you're low carb, if you don't like certain foods, use the tools that you have access to further your goals. So I won't get into it, but there are a ton of videos that explain how to figure out the amount of calories that you're normally taking in, and then the way to do a calorie deficit properly. I would advise not being in a calorie deficit of more than 300 calories to start, but everyone is different, so do what works for you. And then there's the macronutrients, and those are protein, fat, and fiber. So starting with fat, I think fat gets a bad rep because we think that if we eat fat, we'll get fat. Well, yeah, if you're eating saturated fat and trans fat that comes from foods that are fried in vegetable oil and ultra-processed foods that are littered with sunflower and safflower oil and like other things like that. But did you know that olive oil and avocado oil are actually good for you? Not all oils are bad for you, which when I finally learned that, I was like so shocked because growing up, all I would like think about oils is like, oh, all oils are bad, like you can't use too much, but it really depends on the kind of oil. So olive oil and avocado oil are the only oils that I cook with and that I bake with. So let's talk about protein. So protein isn't just for those gym bros who take up the weight section rack at the gym and post their selfies on their Hinge profiles. Protein is the number one macronutrient that you should be paying attention to. Every meal you eat should have at least 20 to 30 grams of protein. And you can also type this into ChatGPT if this is overwhelming for you. So just ask it to give you meal ideas for breakfast, lunch, and dinner that have at least 20 to 30 grams of protein, and then just follow what it says. Guys, it really shouldn't be that hard. Like there's tons of information out there, and yes, it can get overwhelming, but if you just go straight to ChatGPT, that will cut out like 95% of the BS. And the same thing goes for gauging your fiber intake, which is also the next most important macronutrient. So fiber, along with protein, is what makes you full. I've actually started taking psyllium husk supplements to help with my fiber intake because I know that I don't have enough in my regular diet throughout the day, but you should do your own research about this before taking anything. I'm just saying what I do. And then lastly, the last pillar of fat loss, do you sleep enough? Like, we don't think that sleep affects our fat loss, but it really does. Did you know that sleep affects your hormones? So leptin is the hormone that signals fullness, and when you get enough sleep, your leptin levels stay balanced, meaning you're more likely to feel satisfied after you eat. And then ghrelin is our hunger hormone, so lack of sleep actually spikes ghrelin levels in your body, and it tricks your brain into feeling hungrier, which can lead to overeating or choosing more calorie-dense foods that you wouldn't otherwise have had you had a good night's sleep. And also, when you're sleep deprived, your cortisol increases, and elevated cortisol not only makes you feel stressed, but it also promotes fat storage, especially in your stomach area. So if you really want a flat stomach and you want to feel confident in crop tops and not have a pooch or have your stomach hanging over when you sit, you should really be paying attention to your sleep. And sleep also affects brain regions responsible for decision making. So when you're sleep deprived, you're more likely to crave sugary and high carb, really bad like junk food, and you make more poor like dietary decisions, and you're also less motivated to get movement in. So I really hope that you got something out of this, because as unfair as it is, we're all judged by how our bodies look, and while that's not the sole reason why you should want to look healthy, I know it's a big reason for a lot of women. So being healthy also makes you feel better in your body. You don't feel heavy, you can fit into your clothes, you can feel confident wearing sports bra and shorts to the gym, showing off your midriff because you put in the work, and you can be proud of yourself and show it off. So, okay, girls, I'll talk to you again soon. That's it for this video.